Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound podcast, a show where, as always, we're hitting you with them elbows of knowledge. And here to break down UFC Fight Night Atlanta is my co-host, Carlos. What's happening, Carlos?
Absolutely nothing, brother.
And as always, we're going to start off in the prelims, heading all the way to the main event of Muhammad Usman taking on Joachim Buckley. And kicking things off in the early prelims, we have Vanessa Demopoulos taking on Jamey Lynn Horth, the fight that everybody wanted to see. And I'm going to pass this one over to you, Carlos. Who you got in this absolute barn burner of a matchup?
Well, unfortunately, I wrote neither is very impressive, which is pretty mean to say. They both hard working. They're in the UFC. They're doing their thing. So I'm going to give them what they need. I think the height and weight advantage goes to Horth. I think she's just a little, the height and reach, goes to Horth. She's a little bit bigger of a person for that weight class as well. Demopoulos, she's the aggressor out of the two. She's going to come in. She's going to swing heavy. She's going to, I don't know if she's going to try to take her down. I don't know how success she's going to have with that because she doesn't have a lot of wrestling ability to be able to take her down. And Horth is kind of, like I said, for the weight class, she's a big girl. Just for that, like being able to get through the reach advantage, and even when she breaks through that reach, I don't even know looping shots are going to be able to hurt. I ended up taking Jamey Lynn Horth.
Yeah, two for Jamey Lynn Horth here as well for me. Vanessa taking this fight on short notice, and any old grizzled ground and pound listener knows that me and my ex-wife Vanessa Demopoulos aren't on good terms. And she's decided here to move up in weight. I wish her all the best. Obviously, no hard feelings, but I hope Jamey Lynn Horth absolutely smashes her face in this Saturday. But I'm going with Horth. I think that she's like Carlos said, she's the bigger female here. I think that she's very good at getting women up against the fence, kind of bullying them in the clinch. A little bit how we saw Andreas Gustafsson at the weekend. I think that's going to be a very similar game plan here for Jamey Lynn Horth. She comes in, she throws elbows and knees in the clinch. I think Demopoulos, my ex-wife, is very, very small for this particular weight class. She was small in her last weight class. I just think that she's just going to get bullied here on short notice, and I think the cardio is not going to hold up. I don't think that she's going to have means to get Horth to the ground and implement her jiu-jitsu. Vanessa might be a little bit faster on the feet and a little bit more technical out of the two. I wouldn't say that either woman's got good striking, but I just think that Horth, I think that she's taken punches from much bigger females. I think that Horth's overall grappling and size here is going to give Vanessa Demopoulos a little bit of problems here. So give me Horth here to win by unanimous decision. And next up, we have Phil Rowe taking on Ange Loosa. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I went with Phil Rowe, and he does have the height and the reach, but what he does, I think I want to say he's a little bit more well-rounded in that he actually uses a lot of his abilities in the fight. Like Loosa actually had to work on using wrestling and think about it for one of his last fights. And, he did a good job, and that's good. But I don't think that's his main focus, is trying to mix everything together. I think that Phil Rowe actually mix a lot of the striking, the level changes, the takedowns. I think he, and the grappling, I think he mixes it in better than Loosa. Although I still don't feel too confident, because if Loosa shows up ready to grapple, once he gets top pressure on Rowe, I think he can actually hold him down and possibly do a little damage on the top. So I don't know. I don't feel confident in it, but I'm taking.
Yeah, I said to Carlos before we hit this video, I just don't necessarily like either of these two. I think both guys are very inconsistent. Definitely not something I'm going to be betting on this week, but I'm going to go with Ange Loosa, and the only reason being, I just don't necessarily like the volume of Phil Rowe. We've seen in fights where his fight against Neil Magny, he wouldn't stay out of the clinch. With Neil Magny, that's the one place you don't want to be. Sometimes Rowe doesn't necessarily use all of his physical attributes in fights. He is 6'3", 80.5-inch reach, very, very big and tall for the division. He's got a great physique to fight overall, but I just think he's not necessarily lived up to the hype, and he's always working on his submissions. He's always working on his grappling. I would like to see him use his boxing in this fight against Ange Loosa. I think that the range and his overall length in this fight would be definitely something he could put together a win with. But I think the thing here that kind of makes me lean slightly towards Loosa is I've seen with Loosa that he will put up volume. He will go forward in fights. He will pressure forward, throw overhands to close the distance, and just overall his ability to walk guys down. I think that's going to be the main factor here. Like Carlos said, I think if Loosa does decide to mix in grappling, he needs to be careful of the long arms of Rowe with the submission threat. Rowe very, very live for a submission here. That might be something we look to play on the best bets video as a prop. But I don't like Loosa to get it done, but I just think that out of these two, I trust Loosa a little bit more. But he's also quit in the past against Brian Battle. So like I said, probably my least confident fight today, but I'm going to go with Loosa just to go against what Carlos is picking, just so we can get a little bit of dissension and look at both sides. And next up, we have Ricky Simón taking on Charles Jourdain. And give me Ricky Simón here. I'm going to kick this one off. I do like Charles Jourdain. He's very, very flashy striker, very nice on the feet. He's obviously moved up in weight here. And I just think that, to me, this one really comes down to Ricky Simón's wrestling. I've been impressed with Ricky Simón's wrestling. He's been on a little bit of a losing streak recently, losing some of the higher level guys, Vinicius Oliveira, for example. He has struggled, but a lot of the losses he's had haven't necessarily aged too badly, and he was able to get the knockout victory over Javid Basharat, which was a little bit of a surprise to a lot of people. Simón does throw the big overhands as he feints the takedowns. People are very worried about his wrestling, so the overhand is there. I do think that Charles Jourdain is probably the better striker here, but I just think that Simón's going to be able to implement his wrestling. I think he's going to get this fight to the ground. He just needs to be careful of Charles Jourdain's very high-level guillotine and the long arms of Charles Jourdain. But I think Simón comes in here. I think his wrestling's going to be enough, and I think he gets another win here to make it 2 in a row. Carlos, who you got in this one?
With Ricky Simón as well. I feel that his grappling can be a factor. My only issue is Jourdain's a little explosive, and his strikes are quick, but he's got to watch those knees up the middle when he's going for a takedown, because Jourdain loves to just flash those knees, and he's, I don't know. I wanna go with Jourdain because I know he could end it, but Ricky Simón, his striking hasn't been bad either, and maybe he lands that big overhand that you were talking about. I mean, he has come with a left hook without Basharat, but he doesn't look bad. They're not as wide as you'd think they would be for someone who's shooting in at the same time, or So Simón does look sharp sometimes. His foot movement is good. So I mean, I don't know, Jourdain. I had an early because I was kind of torn to back into Jourdain, but I'm going to go with Simón. I feel that he's going to he might get stung with something early and start taking him down after that.
2 for Ricky Simón, but I definitely agree with you. I think Charles Jourdain is definitely alive in this fight, in the striking and in the grappling for the submissions, but I just have a feeling that Ricky Simón is going to kind of pull through on this one with the wrestling, but we'll see on Saturday.
Yeah.
And next up, we have Atlanta's own Cody Durden taking on Jose Ochoa. And I got to admit, when I first looked at this one, I was originally going to go with Cody Durden. Carlos knows I like conspiracy theory corner where, the hometown guy, fighting on his card. But I'm going to go with Ochoa here. He impressed me in his UFC debut against Logan Kavanagh. He looked very, very live in that fight. Shooter box fighter. Very, very aggressive, very fast hands, good footwork on the outside, was able to implement some wrestling and take the back of Logan Kavanagh in that fight. And that fight was extremely close. And he flew halfway across the world to go fight over there in Asia. And he looked impressive. He's a finisher on the feet. He's got good front chokes. And I worry a little bit about Cody Durden. We've seen now him get finished in a few of his fights, him losing to Bruno Silva, for example, who we just saw at the weekend get beaten up. I do think that Durden is going to maybe, obviously use his wrestling wrestling like he always does. But I just feel like he might have success with it in round one. But I think as the fight goes on, he's going to struggle to get those takedowns. Ochoa, obviously 10 years younger here. I think that the cardio is going to hold up. I think he's much more dangerous on the feet, whether it be with the hands and the boxing. I think he can rip to the body as well of Cody Durden. I do like Ochoa here to get it done. I think this one's a little bit of a trap on the betting line. I think people are seeing Durden as the underdog, and they're obviously all invested here, especially on an Atlanta card with an Atlanta fighter. We know that he needs to get back in the win column, so obviously he's going to implement his wrestling, but Ochoa's proven to me he can keep fights on the feet, and he is the better striker. And Durden obviously getting up there in age and has been finished multiple times now. So give me Ochoa to get it done at the weekend. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I also went with Ochoa for the same reason. I was pretty impressed with that fight against Lona Kavanaugh. Some things I don't really dig too much about him is how he avoids a right hand, and that seems to be Durden's number one shot if he's going to have a number one shot is the overhand. And what he likes to do is kind of pivot and fade out of the way of that punch. And that's fine and everything if you time it correctly. But if he starts ripping your lead leg, which Durden probably won't do that, but if anyone starts ripping your lead leg and you're going to try to step and pivot, you're going to get caught with that overhand right. The other thing, too, is a guy early in the round, overhand right, you want to step and pivot, kind of fade out of the way. That lead leg to pick you up and just dump you with a whether it's a single leg, gets a high crotch, whatever it is, it's going to be an easier takedown, especially in punching range. So those things right there, I'm like, he might make it a little easy for Durden, but I think after round one, he's very relaxed. He's very smooth with his movements. Doesn't keep a high guard, keeps his hands down a little bit. I'm not too happy about that, but I feel that he has enough takedown defense, especially after the first round, to defend Cody Durden later on in the fight, and I think he's probably going to open up.
Yeah, and I will say as well with Ochoa that it does worry me a little bit with some of the antics that he did in that last fight against Kavanaugh. You know, he's kind of taunting him and playing to the crowd, and sometimes it's also about getting in there and fighting, and I definitely think that him playing to the crowd, especially in Atlanta, it might just give Durden the opportunity, him hungry coming in after multiple losses, knowing that he's maybe fighting for his job. That might be the difference maker in the fight for him, just not taking it as seriously. Obviously, he is very, very relaxed in there, and it does show, but, you know, sometimes being youthful and, being the younger fighter and not necessarily having the experience, he doesn't realize that he's got a hungry Cody Durden coming in here. But it'd be an interesting matchup, but don't be surprised if Durden does pull it off with the wrestling. And next up, we have Malcolm Wellmaker taking on Kris Moutinho. And this one, to me, is just one-way traffic. This one's on the card just really for Wellmaker to kind of have a highlight reel finish if he can. Carlos and I were talking before this fight was announced and before the show that Kris Moutinho obviously is pretty much a human punching bag. He can really take a shot very well. Obviously, he is one of Sean O'Malley's big highlights where he was playing basketball and then deciding to step back right hand and just pretty much land whatever he wanted. And I think we're going to see something similar here from Wellmaker. He was able to get that very nasty finish on Cameron Simon. Power in the hands, very athletic off Dana White's Contender Series. He's looked very good, very measured. My only concern here is that he doesn't blow his load, in that he doesn't kind of punch himself out, and Moutinho doesn't do the Homer Simpson and just eat all of the shots and be able to land, just basically blow him or push him over at the end after he's tired himself out from punching so much. But give me Wellmaker, man. I think he gets it done here, probably by TKO with the referee stopping the fight. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I also went with Wellmaker. Pretty much like that. That's exactly how I have it too. Is if he gets tired, beaten up, Moutinho, that's my only my only bit of worry in this fight for Wellmaker. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's pretty educated about that. I don't think he's going to throw 100 miles an hour the whole time. Hopefully he just peppers them and throws hard shots when it's really there, the opening. But the thing is, the opening is there because he never moves his head off the center line. He just stands right in front of you. The only thing that I see is if he's beat up too much, his fights have been stopped, even though he hasn't been like completely out. So if he's getting beat up enough, I feel that the going to step in and just stop it. So yeah, we're going to go with Wellmaker. This is a very weird breakdown talking about how badly someone's going to get beaten up until they stop it. But we don't even know how bad it's going to be because that's how his fights have gone. I don't know. If I was his family, I'd say don't sign the contract.
Yeah,
Everybody wants to be there.
Exactly, and also as well, we've seen with Moutinho that he is very durable. So I could see a lot of people betting Wellmaker by KO. Just be careful on that, especially like the under 1.5. We could see here Moutinho is able to kind of drag this one out, but get beaten up, and it gets stopped later on. So just be careful betting props this week here for Wellmaker. I know that he's a huge favorite. So, and next up we have Moutinho. And next up, we have Horth McGee taking on Michael Chiesa. Battle of the gritty veterans here. And give me Horth McGee, man. I'm kind of surprised by the odds on this one. I don't know if Carlos saw the odds here, but Horth McGee is almost like a 3-1 underdog here against Chiesa, which I think is kind of crazy. Horth McGee in his last fight against Tim Means looked fantastic. He's talked about having his surgery on his neck, coming out and feeling a lot better. He's able to train much harder now. Even at 40 years old, he still looks pretty decent. The epitome of absolute toughness. And I trust Horth McGee here to kind of keep this one on the feet and use his boxing. I think that he can put up a little bit more volume than Chiesa. I think Chiesa bounces around on the outside when he gets pressured. I think the overall better jiu-jitsu practitioner here is obviously Chiesa. But I like the striking, the toughness, and the overall wrestling here of McGee. And I kind of had to rub my eyes and wake up a little bit when I saw the odds. It just didn't really make sense. I don't think Chiesa should be a 3-1 favorite here. I do think that he can blast kicks from the outside. I do think if the fight hits the ground, that Chiesa could definitely find a submission. But Horth McGee is up until this point has proven to have good submission defense, and I like his power in his hands a little bit more. So I think he rides this train for a little bit longer here. He had to win against Tim Means. I wouldn't be surprised if he puts Chiesa out on the feet. So give me Horth McGee as a 3-1 underdog here, and I'm going to be betting the +3.5 on the spread. I think Horth McGee can at least win one round, if not the whole fight. So give me Horth McGee. Carlos, who you got in this one?
That is very interesting because I also took Horth McGee, and I got nothing against Michael Chiesa. I like Chiesa. I just think that he's so one-dimensional, and the height and the reach are not that big of an advantage for him. That Horth can stay in his face and probably smother a lot of his takedowns. Although Chiesa's awkwardness helps him get some takedowns, I really don't think he's going to be able to get him on Horth McGee. And once it gets to the ground, I'm kind of not worried about McGee just getting subs right away. Chiesa's good at jiu-jitsu, but not that guy. Once you're down there, the fight's over. I think McGee's probably going to put a beating on him on the feet and then possibly go to a decision.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think this line's kind of crazy. I think Chiesa is a good fighter. I like him too. I like him as an analyst on the desk, but I also think that could also be a distraction as well. Maybe focused a little bit on the analytics side and not necessarily the training. Whereas Horth McGee's already talked about his injury and his surgery he's had has really improved his ability to train, and he's taken this seriously. So very interesting here that Carlos picked it Horth McGee as well to win. I thought we might have a little bit of dissension here, but I'm rooting for Horth McGee. And next up, we already know who I'm rooting for in this one. Paul Craig taking on Rodolfo Bellato, former dog of the week that we didn't get to see. Well, like I said in the breakdown and in the recap video, Bellato, you know that you cannot hide. This fight was canceled due to Bellato having herpes. He's cleared that up. He's obviously took the antibiotics necessary. And now we're getting this one run back here at UFC Atlanta. And nothing's changed here for me. You know where I'm going. We're going Paul Craig. I think he gets this one done. I think Rodolfo Bellato, to me, like I said in my last breakdown, I'm going to repeat it here again. A lot of the fights with Bellato, he tends to come out wild, like a Terminator. He comes out far too aggressive, and he ends up either shooting a sloppy takedown in exchange, which would be terrible to do against Paul Craig, or he ends up getting taken down himself. And I think if this fight, the second it hits the floor, we all know what happens with Paul Craig. He comes out very, very aggressive, especially when it comes to the ground. He blasts kicks at range. And I just think, to be honest with you, at some point this fight's going to hit the floor, and Paul Craig's going to find the submission or the finish, whether it be on the ground with the ground and pound or the submission. But I like Paul Craig either way this one goes. I think Scotland has got a problem here, and Paul Craig at 205. Rodolfo Bellato, you're going to sleep, buddy. Carlos, who you got in the rebook matchup?
I feel Bellato's going to get it done. I know that if he falls into his guard, because I feel he's going to drop. And I feel he's going to feel like, you know what, I can go down there, I can finish him off with some ground and pound, some hammer fist, something. I don't necessarily feel like Craig's going to be okay to throw his legs up, get a triangle, but it's happened. It's happened for in the past. So as long as Bellato follows him and doesn't get too sloppy, which that's how he fights, like as long as that doesn't stay safe in the guard, I think he can get this done like by KO stoppage. I would rather him not follow him, let him get back up and just beat him up on the feet. Craig is I don't know. Just don't give him a reason to get the submission. So that's what I would tell Bellato if I was his corner. But that's just how he fights. He might even fall into a submission, like you said, going for a takedown because he's Bellato. That's how he fights. He leans forward with everything. His punches, his takedowns, his kicks, everything. He just leans forward like he's off balance the entire fight. So now you're making me doubt it, but I'm sticking with Bellato.
Yeah, Bellato's fight IQ is what really made me pick Paul Craig. It's just the fact that I could see Bellato definitely landing on Craig early, but I just think that he won't be the kind of guy to back up and say, get up. I think that he'll, like Carlos said, I think he'll jump in the guard if he has him hurt, or he'll mix in a takedown, which will get him submitted, or Craig will get the takedown. So either way, I see Paul Craig getting his hand raised, and we know that Paul Craig likes to get the finish too, so I definitely think inside the distance is probably the way that I'd play this one, and he'll probably be in our best bets this week. Keep an eye out for that later on in the week. And next up, we have Oumar C taking on Alonzo Menifield. I'm going to pass this one to you, Carlos. I'm hogging it. You go first. Who you got in this one?
All right. I went with Omar C, and, he's technical. He's a fighter. He's a good wrestler. He shouldn't have any issues with Menifield. Menifield's got those, if he hits you with like that right hand, that bomb that he throws, he does throw some decent leg kicks. He has no wrestling ability. I don't think he should be able to get C down. The way that he fought that fight against Julius Walker shows me that if C just wants to be able to take him down and work the grappling, and as he's making his way up, throw your strikes there. As you're taking him down, look for submission. Like it's gonna be there. So why stand on the feet and trade? Even though he does throw some beautiful low leg kicks, he does throw just beautiful strikes in general. C for a big man, I would say go the route that's a little bit more beneficial. Get close to him, clinch him, get him down, use that wrestling. But I'm going with C. He probably isn't going to do that, but I'm going to go with C anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going with C here as well. And we saw in that Menifield fight, in his last fight, like you mentioned, against, was it Walker, Caesar Walker? I just don't necessarily think that Menifield is all that. He does have the dynamite in his hands, especially early. Obviously, I don't know if Pat Barry still trains him or if he is still over there with Pat Barry, but he's just one of those guys to me that he's always kind of been just average, especially even at 205. He's not necessarily anything special, but I think this guy Oumar C is actually something pretty special. I think that he's shown that he can kind of implement grappling, especially in his first fight against Tuco Tokos. He got the fight to the ground there. He took the back. He was able to get the submission victory. And he also then in his next fight, he comes out and was able to use his kickboxing, use his striking, implement his sort of range management, and also implement some grappling. And he went the distance in that fight as well, which I know a lot of people's question mark going into that fight is how far into fights can Oumar C actually take it, and what's his cardio going to look like. And he's shown an ability to mix it up on the feet and on the ground. I like him to be able to do that here against Menifield. And I think this guy's a pretty good physical specimen as well. 83-inch reach, 6'4" here at 205. And I just think here if he kind of keeps his fight at range and uses his kicks, he can frustrate Menifield, and that'll open up the takedowns. The takedowns will take some of the pop away from Menifield's big strikes. And I think ultimately that takes Oumar C here to 12-0 undefeated and gets him a higher ranked opponent. And next up, we have Mansur Abdul-Malik taking on Cody Brundage. And this to me is one-way traffic. I'm obviously going to go with Malik here. I don't trust Cody Brundage. He's not necessarily a bad fighter, Cody Brundage. I just think that we obviously picked him for my dog of the week against Julian Marquez, but even that fight was a little bit sloppy. But Cody Brundage, I definitely think he has a quit button. I think in fights that if things don't go his way, he does tend to, kind of shell up and kind of quit in there. Malik is a very, very, very good athlete, even at middleweight, almost an 80-inch reach. Trains over with Sean Strickland. And the one concern I do have here for Malik is his cardio. We've seen in the past that when he fought against Dusko Todorovic, he did kind of, finish Dusko Todorovic, excuse me. He did kind of slow down in that fight a little bit. He was able to get the finish. I do worry a little bit about Malik kind of gassing out, beating up Cody Brundage, but I think ultimately if he wants to take Brundage down, I think he can. If he wants to keep it on the feet, which I think he should, I think that he'll have the size, the athleticism, and the reach here to be able to find the chin of Cody Brundage with the reach factor here on the side of Malik. I think he finds the chin of Brundage and gets it done. Give me Malik. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I also went with Abdul-Malik. I feel that anywhere, even wrestling, I think he's got the better wrestling when it comes to him and Brundage. I think the striking, he brings the power, he's got the reach. I think he's going to probably get to him before Brundage even gets to him. I also think that even if Brundage gets him down, he gets up so quickly. That's not going to even be an issue, taking any damage or not. I mean, I can't talk about this one too much anymore. Like I really see, if you've ever seen these guys fight, I would just say, yep, I believe I'll put all my money on Malik. Technically, I don't see any way that Brundage is going to win unless he throws a post, and even then, he might even hit himself. He's that bad of a. Let's go with Malik.
Yeah, for sure. I think Malik finishes him before Malik actually gets tired. I don't necessarily see this one going any other way either. So be surprised if Brundage pulls this one off, but I don't think he will. And next up, we have Cody No Love Garbrandt taking on Ronnie Barcelos. And I'm going to kick things off here. And obviously, Ronnie Barcelos, I just want to kind of pat myself on the back a little bit. I did pick him over Peyton Talbot. I know a lot of people were on the Talbot train. I picked Ronnie Barcelos as a plus 1,000 or plus 800 underdog. I didn't make him my dog of the week, but I did pick him on the breakdown. It was like one of Carlos and I's very first videos here on YouTube. So a lot of people are saying, oh, I didn't know that was going to happen. Well, I fucking did. Ronnie Barcelos is a national champion over in Brazil at wrestling. Carlos even said, I think that he could definitely come in here and wrestle as well. So I knew Carlos saw the same path I did. Barcelos is very tough, very durable. He can wrestle, he can grapple. Very good at taking the back when he has you hurt as well. He can box, but I do think that the striking here of Barcelos is definitely slowed down over time. I think his hand speed is really slowed down as well. And I obviously we've seen with Cody Garbrandt in the past that the one thing that he does have is speed in the hands. His boxing and his speed in the hands has caused a lot of people problems. He does tend to swing wild in the pocket. He does have good footwork. We saw in his last fight against Davidson Figueiredo, he was taken down, which definitely could be a path to victory here for Barcelos. But give me Cody No Love Garbrandt here. I think that he's going to get it done with the hands. I think the speed is going to be far too much here for Barcelos. I think that Barcelos really doesn't pack the same pop as he once did a long time ago. I don't think that that's necessarily going to be a factor here. And we've seen with Cody Garbrandt that his chin doesn't hold up sometimes, but I don't think that Barcelos has that pop to really test Garbrandt's chin. He's had enough time of a layoff to kind of recoup that chin as well. And I just think, to be honest with you, I think the speed here of Garbrandt is going to be the main factor, and that's why he is the dog of the week this week. Cody No Love Garbrandt to get it done as the underdog here against Barcelos. Obviously, he needs to keep this one standing, but I think he does, and I think he gets the highlight reel knockout here with his hand speed on the 38-year-old Barcelos. Carlos, who are you going with this in this matchup?
I also took Cody Garbrandt. I don't really know another way that Barcelos can get him to the ground. I don't. If Cody's on, I don't see how he can beat him on the feet. My is his exchange on the inside, because Cody will start counter striking, but then he could always be lulled into an exchange. He's got to get closer because he's got the Barcelos has got the reach advantage. And in that exchange, if he gets clipped, you don't need to have big pop. I think we've discussed this before the show. You don't need to have big pop to put Cody down. You just got to be able to hit the chin. And then once you hit him, he's gonna feel it. And that's the one thing that gets me is like I don't know who's gonna land first based on speed. I'll take Cody. I think he's gonna land on Barcelos. And if he does, he lands clean, he's gonna put him out. So it's 50-50. Who lands first? I'm going with Cody.
Yep. Cody No Love Garbrandt this week for the dog of the week. You heard it here first. And I'll have that highlight reel tape ready for you guys so we can do a more in-depth breakdown and talk a little bit about Cody's victory this week to get us back on track for dog of the week. And next up, we have arguably one of the I think this fight is an absolute seesaw. We have Andre Petroski taking on Edmen Shahbazyan. And I'm going to pass this one to you, Carlos, because I have a pretty interesting take on this fight. But who do you have in this one?
In this one, I am taking Shahbazyan. I think Petroski's he's supposed to be a good wrestler, and he does get good takedowns, but he doesn't really have good top control on a lot of his opponents. That's great for the first round. Second round comes along. He doesn't have the pop to be able to get anybody out of the first round. He can do that. Second round, he definitely doesn't. And in the second round, because of the wrestling in the first round or how much striking he has to do in the first round, he may not even have the gas to do that and take you down in the second round. So that'll be the key to the victory for me when it comes to Shahbazyan here. I think in the second round is where he can up a little bit more and on how much he makes Petroski work in the first round. And then the other thing is Shahbazyan, I got to watch out for him too because he could gas late as well. So I think Petroski gets he starts sucking wind a little bit earlier before Shahbazyan, and I go with Shahbazyan in this.
Yeah, I think these two are probably on the whole card, or maybe even in the UFC, two of the most hardest guys to trust to pick on in a fight. And I think now that you've matched them up against each other, each guy is pretty much the kryptonite of the other guy. Edmen Shahbazyan, we've seen in the past, he does have flashy striking as one-punch knockout power. And he had a lot of hype coming into the UFC as a prospect. He's still only 27. And obviously he does finish people on the feet, but we've seen him get taken down even by lesser wrestlers like GM3. Gerald Meerschaert was able to take him down in the second round and finish him. And Petroski, we know that that's what he likes to do. He likes to go for the wrestling. He likes to mix in the takedowns. But on the feet, he gets his face absolutely smashed in with jabs. And a guy like Shahbazyan could definitely define the chin of Andre Petroski. And I just feel like here that if Petroski gets the takedown, especially early, he could definitely submit Shahbazyan early in round one. I think if Petroski doesn't get the submission in round one, I think Edmen Shahbazyan could definitely get the knockout in round two, like Carlos said, when Petroski's sucking wind. So I definitely think some of the props might be live for that fight. That's what I'll probably play this week on the best bets. But I honestly, I could see this fight going either way. I think this is a 50-50 fight, but I'm going to go with Edmen Shahbazyan here to get it done. I don't trust Petroski that much, 34 years old. I think he'll get the takedown in the first round, ultimately not be able to do that over the course of 3 rounds, and ultimately Shahbazyan's going to find the finish later on in the second or the third. I will say that Petroski has looked good inside the UFC recently. When I say look good, I mean he's 8-2 inside the UFC. His last performance, there was a terrible fight. But Edmen Shahbazyan, his wins so far in the UFC have all come against guys who have losing records inside the UFC or have been cut. So I didn't necessarily think that Petroski was 8-2 in the UFC. That's kind of crept up on me. And I don't necessarily think that Shahbazyan's wins are very creditable. So definitely not touching this from a betting standpoint. Might just play the props and see if we can get a flyer with some crazy odds this week. But give me Edmen Shahbazyan to get the second round knockout. And next up, we have the co-main event here at UFC Atlanta. If you're enjoying the content here, hit that like and subscribe button as we break down Thug Rose Namajunas taking on Miranda Maverick here. And I'm going to go with Fear the Maverick, Miranda Maverick here to get it done here as the younger fighter. I don't trust Rose Namajunas anymore. I think that in that last fight against Erin Blanchfield, she showed that she's kind of a little bit step slow than what she used to be. I think in a 3-round fight, Miranda Maverick can come in here and implement some grappling, push her up against the fence, make it boring. I saw in Miranda Maverick's last fight that she looks a little bit more comfortable on the feet. She's always improving. And Carlos loves it when I talk about little conspiracy theories and things like that. But Miranda Maverick did just have a baby, so now she has mother strength. She's talked about being very motivated in her camp more than ever. And I think that she comes in here with a new lease on life. I think she comes in and I think she's able to impose her wrestling here. And we saw with Rose, she had early success against Erin Blanchfield, but ultimately even Erin Blanchfield later on in round 3 was able to get the takedown. Well, Miranda Maverick here is a better wrestler to me than Erin Blanchfield. And I think she's always improving in the striking. I think we see a changing of the guard here. And I don't trust Rose at this point in her career. I think she fades. And I do think she is the better fighter. I just don't trust her. So it's more of just a fade of Rose Namajunas at this point in her career. Give me Maverick. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I am going with Rose. I think that she's got the better movement. I think she's got the higher level grappling. I do think that Miranda Maverick's wrestling is probably, and it is better than Blanchfield. I think she'll get better takedowns. I just think she's got to be wary of getting takedowns on Namajunas because I think finish, on the ground. I do think standing up, as you said, Maverick feels a little bit more comfortable. I don't think she should feel that comfortable with someone like Rose. She may have lost a step, but the step that she's lost, Maverick has not gained yet. So I think the edge goes to her. I think she could find the openings a lot easier, beat her up standing. Besides holding down Namajunas for 3 rounds, I think Rose can at least pull out 2, and Maverick probably wins the last round just by laying on her. But I'll take Rose in this one.
Dissension here in the co-main event, but we'll see who gets it done at UFC Atlanta on Saturday. And the fight that we've all been waiting for in the main event, we have Joaquin Buckley. Shout out to all of the PFL viewers tuning in to watch this video. We have Joaquin Buckley taking on Kamaru Usman, the Nigerian Nightmare. And I'm going to pass this one to you, Carlos. Who you got in the main event?
I'm going with Marty Fake Newsman. There we go. I'm going with Kamaru Usman. Okay, I think that he's gonna probably go back to the bread and butter and not try to stand with Buckley. I think that would be pretty stupid. I think he's gonna try to wrestle him down and do a little ground and pound there. And I think early Buckley's gonna be able to get back up. As the longer the fight goes, I think Usman's just gonna get easier takedowns. Buckley's a little bit more athletic, a little quicker on the feet. I would try to stand with him, even though technically Usman's better standing up. I feel that when someone's a little younger, a little faster, you may want to take the easier route for yourself and just wrestle him and keep taking him down and beating him as he's getting up. I really don't see him having an answer for the wrestling. I think also that even in the stand-up, I think Usman in a couple of ways could be able to get to Buckley a little quicker because his strikes are a little bit shorter because they're coming straight. He doesn't have to throw looping shots like Buckley's always throwing hooks. And, I think that Usman's chin is still there. So if he gets hit, I think that it's not going to have as big of an effect as it did on Wonder Boy late in the fight. So I think Usman is, I think he's still durable. So let's get it done, old man.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the youth. I'm going with Joaquin Buckley. I do think that Usman definitely shouldn't be this big of an underdog here in this fight against Buckley. We've seen with Buckley, even against Wonder Boy, Carlos and I were talking about it, that he was lucky to kind of pull off that victory. He was outclassed on the feet for most of that fight and ended up getting the victory against Wonder Boy with that flash knockout. The thing I do like here for Usman is Usman tends to throw straight shots, whether it be the jab or the 1-2. He always tends to throw straight, whereas Buckley tends to loop and throw the hooks. I do give the speed advantage here to Joaquin Buckley, and that might be all it takes here with the athleticism and the speed to get it done early. But like Carlos said, Usman's chin has checked out so far. Other than headshot dead with that head kick with Leon Edwards, he's been pretty durable throughout his career. I do think that Buckley won't be able to get this fight to the ground. I think Usman is the better wrestler, like Carlos said, but I just think that right now with Joaquin Buckley, his momentum at welterweight, he's undefeated at welterweight since moving up or moving down, excuse me. And I do think that he's probably going to get it done here with the speed. I think he can win the early rounds. I think he can put a pace on Usman. I don't necessarily trust Usman at 38. Obviously, the last 3 fights he's had, obviously short notice against Khamzat Chimaev, who's about to fight for a title up at middleweight, and 2 Leon Edwards fights. So obviously 3 losses in a row, but against very, very high level guys that I think Buckley would probably lose to easily as well. But I just trust that Buckley's youth a little bit more, the momentum he's got. He's obviously feeling himself and he's very confident right now until Usman proves to me that he can get back in the win column and his knees are all good and he can, come in here and have a good performance. I can't really trust him, so I'm just going to pick Buckley and call it a day there. But if you're enjoying the content here on the Ground and Pound podcast, let us know in the comments who you've got in the main event. Let us know what you're enjoying, what you want to see different. And before I wrap things up, like I always do, we're going to talk a little bit about what's coming on the channel. Coming up, we have the full card breakdown for the PFL World Tournament semifinal. That video has been recorded. Keep an eye out for that. It'll be live on the channel. We have the dog of the week, which will be Cody No Love Garbrandt. Peek behind the curtain for this video. You'll see a full highlight reel tape on that video as I talk in depth about that matchup and how he's going to get it done as my favorite betting underdog, along with my quick picks video for this event. A whole entire full card breakdown, 15 minutes or less, confident level traffic light system. If you don't have time for the full recap, that one is for you. And Carlos, what do you want to say to the people?
Hope you like the content, guys, and just remember to like and subscribe, and we got more stuff coming, so check it out.
Yep. Oh, yeah, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.